Lynn, thank you so much for being here today, and I'm excited to talk to you about this. I want to talk about the Amazon trip a couple weeks ago. So that was your first trip to the Amazon and first trip with the Bucket Ministry, and wondering if you could talk about a little bit of what led up to the trip and how God called you to be on the Amazon.
Well, as you know, Chris, my husband Jeff's been involved with Bucket Ministry for about 2 years, and I've been sold on the concept of the Bucket Ministry since the beginning. The idea of getting clean water at a low cost to lots of people who need it, and having all the follow-up with the ministers locally and everything is a no-brainer in my mind. However, at Lake Point, I've always been involved with the wheelchair ministry, going to Mexico a couple of times a year. That kind of fits with my professional training, and really enjoy it. And so in my brain, my husband does bucket ministry and I do wheelchairs, and that's it. And starting late last winter, Jeff was trying to encourage me to go to the Amazon with the bucket ministry. And I kind of put it on the back burner, and at one point I told him I would pray about it. But the truth was I didn't need to pray about it because I knew I didn't want to go.
Really?
Yes, there was no doubt about it. The Amazon's hot, you got big bugs, you got to get typhoid, yellow fever, malaria shots, all of that. And I go to Mexico. I don't really need to go to the Amazon. So I really wasn't praying about it, Chris, because I already knew I didn't want to go. And it got to the point of the deadline where I really had to let them know precisely, just because the person arranging the trip needed to arrange airfare. And it was one of those Sunday mornings here at Lake Point where we were having a quiet time where you meditated and prayed over issues. And I had a serious talk with God, and I said, look, God, you know my heart on this issue. I flat out don't want to go to the Amazon, but if you really want me to go to the Amazon, let me know, and I will do whatever you direct me to do. And that moment, I just got as clear a direction as you can get here on earth from God. And I told Jeff later that morning, I said, I'm going to the Amazon.
Wow.
So it was just that direct. So.
Wow.
And it wasn't because my heart going into it was there. It was something from God.
That's awesome. So it was not a super long trip to get there. I think it took us maybe 8 hours to get there, but we landed in Manaus, and then we took a river boat on in. What was your impression once you got on the boat and for our accommodations?
I stared at my hammock for quite a while, because 9 nights in a hammock, you know, I like to sleep on my stomach, and I'm just like, there's just no way this is going to happen. And the hammocks were quite close to one another. I was envisioning, I had been warned about hammocks, but I was envisioning swaying, you know, with wind all around you. I wasn't envisioning hammocks right next to one another.
Right.
And then later, when we picked up some missionaries in another town, this man came by and started moving the hammocks even closer together and putting in 4 more hammocks right next to mine, and I'm just like, no way. So sleeping in the hammock was fine. It was kind of like sleeping inside the tube of an MRI machine, but by the end of the day, you're so tired, it really doesn't matter. You'll sleep anywhere.
Wow. Yeah, so what about the temperature? I know you were concerned about the temperature.
The temperature was very hot, just hot all the time. At night, we would travel from village to village, and then you got a nice breeze from the river. So the nights were fine because of that nice breeze, but daytime was just hot, 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 and because they're so close to the equator, it's hot like that all time. We had no air conditioning. And many days there was no electricity, so we had no access to fans. So it's hot.
Yeah.
It's very hot.
So this was, you had obviously heard about the bucket ministry a lot, and heard about it from Jeff, heard about it from me. You've seen pictures, you've seen some videos. So what did you think the first time you saw a live presentation?
The first live presentation, it was outdoors under the trees, which was really pretty neat.
Yeah.
And I was behind you as of doing the presentation and later the gospel presentation. So I was really watching the people, their faces, and you can kind of tell if you're getting buy-in by the, I'm a person that believes in body language a lot, and you could really tell who you're getting buy-in and who you're not getting buy-in on. And it was really impressive, the high number of people who were totally buying in to the water filter, and then later on the gospel presentation. You really hit a nerve with this. So it was neat being behind the scenes where you could really see people's face and bodies and
right.
such. So yeah.
You know, that's a good point, because I often try to watch expressions, that Amazon group was very attentive. So, and then you ran the medical program this trip and handed out the antiparasitic medicines. And so ahead of time, you had talked a few times to Sherry and got kind of the lay of the land on how we did that. There was several parts of that amazed me with your participation with that, namely the fact that you picked up Portuguese in like an afternoon. And so can you talk a little bit about what you learned there and how that went?
Well, I was really attempting to get into the culture, and so I did learn some Portuguese. Part of what helped me a lot is the hammock that was right next to mine. The person I was knocking into all night happened to be one of our translators.
Oh, wow.
So anytime I really didn't get something, she would help me, and I would ask her questions, and I was taking notes in the notebook. And I also had a cheat sheet down my forearm where I would write words that I didn't want to forget. So I was working really hard on that. Basically, I only learned a couple of phrases that I was good at, as far as trying to tell people what dosages of medicines to take them and how to take them. So it was fun. People appreciate you attempting their language, even though I'm sure I was butchering it pretty much.
Yeah. All right, so last question. What would you say to other people, short-term missionaries that are considering a trip and maybe they're uncertain about it like you were in the beginning? What kind of advice could you give them?
You know, it's a hard issue. You don't want to go on a mission trip just to say you went on a mission trip. It is a hard issue. You need to have a heart for this, and it might be your best support for a mission trip is to do something for the people that are going on the mission trip. You don't necessarily have to be the person that gets in the plane or gets in the boat and goes. You know, there's other ways to support it. So, you know, open yourself to the Holy Spirit as far as doing that. As far as me actually seeing the impact on the people's lives was huge for me. Like I said, I was sold on the concept of the bucket ministry, but really seeing these children in particular in the impact that could be on their health from here on in, you know, as they grow up and have families of their own, the whole difference between having a healthier life and growing in more normal height, and just the freedom you get from being a healthier person.
Right.
The impact of that was enormous, just actually getting to see and meet some of these people.
So do you think you came back more fired up for the bucket ministry and wanting to see where this goes more than you started?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
You can really see the impact. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much, Lynn.
You're welcome.